The global climate story is massive. It's just so complex. But what if we could unpack a huge chunk of it just by focusing on one key player? Let's talk about Brazil. Seriously, its journey from the very first environmental debates all the way to the negotiations happening right now, well, it tells us everything. It shows us the deep divisions, the big breakthroughs, and the high-stakes game that's going to shape the future of our planet. Okay, so to really wrap our heads around the climate crisis, we got to start with the source, emissions. And this map, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? It's crystal clear that the responsibility isn't shared equally, not even close. You see those dark red spots? Those are the industrial heavy hitters, pumping out most of the emissions. Meanwhile, you've got huge parts of the world that barely contribute. And this imbalance, this fundamental inequality, it's been the central argument in every single climate talk since day one. And the stakes? Well, they couldn't be higher. Just look at this number, 1.55 degrees Celsius. That's not some far-off prediction. That was the actual global average temperature in 2024, the hottest year ever recorded. This is where we are, right now, 1.5 degrees hotter than we were before the Industrial Revolution. It really hammers home just how urgent this whole thing is.
So, with the planet in crisis, how did we first try to fix it? You'd think everyone would come together, right? But nope. That first attempt, it wasn't a big group hug. It actually blew the lid off a huge fight about what saving the planet even means to different countries.
All right, let's jump in the time machine and go back to 1972, where in Stockholm, Sweden, this is a big deal, the world's first major UN conference on the environment. It should have been this amazing moment of global unity, a real we're all in this together kind of thing. But what actually went down was basically the opening shot in a fight that's still going on today. And this is where you see the two sides drawn up. In one corner, you've got the developed nations. They're already rich, already industrialized, and now they're getting really worried about pollution. Their solution? Zero growth. And they started blaming population growth in poorer countries. But in the other corner, you have the developing world, and Brazil was one of their loudest voices. They basically said, hang on a second, you guys got rich by polluting for centuries, and now you're telling us we can't develop our own economies? So yeah, that first big summit, total clash. All about division, not agreement. So for a long time, it felt like an impossible choice. Either you develop your economy or you protect the environment. You couldn't have both. It seemed like a total deadlock. But then, an idea came along that just changed the whole game, a completely new way of looking at the problem. And here it is. This was the big idea that broke the deadlock: sustainable development. Popped up in a report back in '87, and honestly, it was a total game changer. The whole point was, hey, maybe you don't have to choose between a good economy and a healthy planet. It said you can, and in fact you have to, go after both at the same time, while also making sure things are fair for people. This just completely reframed the entire conversation. And you can really see how this one idea just started to build momentum. So you have the big fight in Stockholm in '72, then, boom, 1987, this new idea of sustainable development lands. And that set the stage for the massive 1992 Earth Summit. And guess who hosted it? Brazil, in Rio. Suddenly, the country was right smack in the middle of this new, much more hopeful global discussion. And what came out of Rio was just huge. I mean, we got the UNFCCC, that's the UN's main climate change agreement. It's basically the parent of every climate treaty that came after it. We also got the Convention on Biological Diversity, plus Agenda 21, which was this big action plan for sustainability. These weren't just pieces of paper. Rio literally built the foundation for everything we talk about today. So with this powerful new idea of sustainable development in its toolkit, Brazil did more than just throw a party. It really stepped up and carved out a new role for itself as a major diplomatic leader, helping to write the rules for how these global environmental talks would work for years and years. And check this out. One of Brazil's biggest contributions to the whole conversation is this principle. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Common but differentiated responsibilities. The idea is simple, but as a diplomatic tool, it's genius. It says, look, we all agree climate change is a common problem. We're all in this boat together. However, our responsibilities are different. Basically, the countries that got rich first by pumping out emissions for over a century have a bigger job to do in cleaning it up. And that idea has been a cornerstone of Brazil's diplomacy ever since. And you can see this idea play out perfectly if you just look at the two big climate deals. First, you had the Kyoto Protocol in '97. It was very top-down, very rigid, and it put legally binding targets only on the developed countries. That's differentiated responsibilities right there. But then you fast forward to 2015 and the Paris Agreement. Totally different approach. It's bottom up. Every country sets its own goals. Getting from Kyoto to Paris was a super long and tricky diplomatic road, and Brazil was a key navigator on that journey. And Brazil's leadership isn't just about carbon emissions either. It also got together this super important group, the like-minded mega-diverse countries. All the countries you see highlighted here are the absolute powerhouses of biodiversity on Earth. And as a bloc, they've fought really hard for important ideas, like the fact that countries should have control over their own natural resources and that any benefits from them should be shared fairly.
Of course, Brazil's leadership really starts at home. It's a key player in the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization. This brings together all 8 countries that share the Amazon to work together on managing the world's largest and, let's be real, most important rainforest in a sustainable way.
And all of this brings us right up to the present day. You know, it's amazing when you think about it. Brazil's whole journey, from fighting for its right to develop way back in Stockholm to becoming the champion of sustainable development in Rio, it's really come full circle. It's once again right at the heart of the entire global climate conversation. I mean, just look at what's been happening. In 2023, Brazil hosted the big Amazon Summit. Right now, in 2024, it's leading the G20. We're talking the world's biggest economies. And it's made the energy transition a top priority. And then, the big one. In 2025, literally the whole world will be watching Belém, a city right at the mouth of the Amazon River, because that's where Brazil is hosting the supercritical COP30 climate summit. So what's the big message Brazil is bringing to the table now that it's in the driver's seat? Well, it's the same idea it helped pioneer all those years ago. This quote really says it all. The future isn't a choice between the economy or social justice or the environment. The only way forward is to weave all three together. That's the heart of sustainable development. And it's the message Brazil has been bringing to the world, loud and clear. So this all leads to the one big final question. That journey from Stockholm to Rio, it gave us a whole new way of thinking. But now, with everyone getting ready to meet in the Amazon itself, the real test is here. Can this country, which has been in the middle of this whole debate for half a century, actually help the world finally find a real, lasting agreement for the planet? I guess we'll have to wait and see. The whole world is definitely watching.